And we are live, it seems. All right, as is usually the case, if you're watching this live in real time, please put something in the chat box to indicate you guys can hear me. I see there are already a couple of people here, which is good. So, last Sunday's live stream, I raffled off this discount certificate for Burris XTR PS. Gentleman by the name of Gavin won. Mr. Lee's here. Won the certificate. I sent him 3 different emails in a few days that have passed and never got a reply. So he's got until 7:45 p.m. Mountain Time approximately to claim the certificate. And if he does not, I am going to raffle it off again. Mr. Stay on Targets professed his eternal hatred for the gentleman who won the certificate. I think you were premature in your hatred, unless, of course, Gavin's disappearance has something to do with you, at which point I am going to assume that I knew nothing and had nothing to do with me. Now, until 7:45 or so, when I'm gonna do the drawing again, you can still enter the draw. If you haven't, I'm gonna put the email into the chat box. It's Raffle at lordofoptics.com. I need your name and what you're going for, either the XTR PS certificate, with a caveat that if Mr. Givendov shows up, it's still his until I do the drawing, or the Burris Fastfire for Red Dot site. Those are your 2 options. Okay. So I am going to log into my email to make sure I don't miss anything. Since last weekend, I don't think I got any new emails there. All right. Oh, Mr. Chris Moore is here, going for Burris cert. Excellent. Good to see you here, sir. I assume that's the Chris Moore that I'm thinking of. All right. Okay, Nathan is here. Nathan is here twice. Interesting. So if you've already sent me an email, do not resend it. If you've already sent me an email, Nathan, I think you have, you can only go for it once. So I'm not going to count you. I'm gonna count you once. Okay, so I've got that. All right, got it. Okay. In the meantime, I do not have really much of a prepared topic to discuss per se. I want to talk a little bit about MPVOs because I've been, playing with several, and lately I've been shooting quite a bit with the Leopold Mark IV HD 2.5 to 10 by 42. So those are probably useful impressions to go over. Also, I received the new the Gen 2 SWFA 3 to 15 by 42 with the new 3 reticle, and I've got it set up on a collimator right there. And while we're at it, if you guys are interested, maybe we'll check the tracking on the scope. I just pulled it out of the box. I have not looked at anything. I'm obviously familiar with the reticle. And the reticle is in some ways worth discussing because I think conceptually it is definitely one of the better general purpose 3 reticles out there. And we can talk a little bit about why that is. So I'm taking votes. Should we go immediately jump into checking the tracking on SWFA scope, or you want to first go into something else? The reason I do the raffles a little bit later in the show is to give people a chance to file in, and to give people a chance to send an email in to go for one of the prizes if they haven't yet. Going forward for future raffles, I am going to change the rules a little bit, and I'm going to require you to be present during the drawing in order to win. Otherwise, I don't like, having to go and look for somebody and all that sort of stuff. I was hoping to, pack it up and get it out of here. Now I'm getting on a plane again tomorrow morning, so if you do win something, I'm not going to ship it until probably Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. All right, Mr. Steven Newman says we should go do some tracking tests. Okay, anybody else? Anyone else have a specific preference? Yay, nay, maybe. We'll go with nobody cares, just get to it, or something along those lines. All right. Are there any comments elsewhere? I think we're good here. Okay. Tracking is fine. Oh, Mr. Kleinbottle is here. Brent is here. All right, let's look at tracking then. Okay, so for those of you who have been here before, you know what my very messy setup looks like. For those who don't, you know what, I'm going to rotate the camera and make sure you see. So just give me a moment. My backup camera was used during travel, and I have not yet set it up. I usually have multiple cameras set up to look at stuff. So let's see. I have to turn the screen so that I can see where we're pointing. There we go. All right. So what you've got there is this little optical bench that I have set up in my very messy office. What you have here, that's a collimator. It basically projects a reticle from a what is like about 100 yards. Have a rifle scope set up on a pick rail, and that sits on a mount where I can do different degrees of adjustment. I can do cant, I can do pitch, and I can go this way and this way. What's it? Cant, tilt, pitch, and all sort of stuff. And I've got a camera looking into the eyepiece. And let's put that camera on the screen. So this is what the camera looking through the scope sees. This is not intended to be any sort of a image quality test. But it does give you a little bit of an idea what the reticle looks like, and we can check the tracking. Mr. Jeff B is here. Good evening to you, sir, as well. The reticle with the smaller numbers is the reticle that's in the scope. The reticle with the larger numbers is what is projected by the collimator. Okay, I specifically offset them for now so that we can first take a look at the reticle. And let me see. Yeah. So the way my camera here is set up, it doesn't see all the way to the edges of the field of view vertically, so you don't see all of the reticle when we're on high magnification. But if I go down a little bit, it's a 3:15 scope. So when we are on about, what is it, about 10, you can see the entirety of the tree with the way my camera is set up. Let me move that thing out of the way a little bit. There we go. So this is what the tree reticle looks like. At the base of it, it's the mill quad that SWF has had for quite a long time. What they did, they added a perfectly normal tree to it with half mil dots in between and 0.2 mil smaller dots for holds. There are numbers on both sides of the tree. There are numbers on the bottom so that it's a little bit easier for you to figure out which diamond or which mill you're on. One of the things I really like about this reticle is that as I decrease the magnification, notice that it doesn't go too far out. So for some of the match stuff, maybe you want to more, but for more of a general purpose reticle, these thick bars that come in from the side are extremely useful in low light. And when you go on low power, here we are on 3, so I'm apologize, image is a little bit distorted, a slight camera misalignment. One of the interesting things that happens, these 3 thick bars really define what you're looking at. And the primary stadia of the reticle, the ones with the little diamonds, are still surprisingly decently visible. Although the scope is not illuminated, the way the reticle is designed is a surprisingly nice compromise of what you got. As I go back up in power, let's get it, let's say up to 6, kind of sort of a general purpose magnification for hunting use. You can't quite use the tree especially well, but you can see the full mill hash marks. But the primary stadia are quite good. The tree, you kind of know it's there, but it's not really obtrusive. And the reticle works, just fine as a normal general purpose mill hash reticle. As you get to about 10 or 12, that's when the tree reticle comes into its own. You have enough separation between the 0.2 milliradian hash marks to be able to use 0.2s, right? So now we are on 15. Okay. What is very nice here is that the primary vertical and horizontal lines are distinctly bolder than the stuff in the tree. So you are never quite confused about what is what. And I don't really want to see the tree. I don't want it to be super prominent below 10 power or so, approximately, right? So I like the way SWFA guys did the thicknesses on this reticle. I think they did a very good job. Now, getting onto the tracking, it does come with a couple of different turret sets, exposed and covered. Right now, I have the covered turret on there. To check tracking, what I'm going to do, I'm going to line up the collimator reticle with the scope reticle as well as I can, and we'll do vertical tracking first. So let's hope I lined it up reasonably well. We are on 0. These are unfortunately still 5 milliradian per turn turrets. And I'm going to do full revolution, and then we'll see where they are. Okay. So we did a full revolution. It looks like we're just about on 5. Let's do another the rev. That should give us 10. That is it. 10 is 10. So far, so good. Let's do one more. So as you go far from the optical axis, you don't need to adjust parallax. You notice that the reticle projected by the collimator is getting a little bit blurry. That's why we readjust parallax when we have to dial a lot. We have dialed 50 milliradian, and that's pretty much dead on 50 milliradian. Let's see if there's more here that I can do. This scope has a ton of adjustment range. So we've dialed 20 milliradian. Maybe there's a little bit of backlash in my system, so it's hard to tell for sure. But when I let go of it and let it settle, I think we're right dead on 20. If there is an error, I'm not seeing it. So let's go back to 0 and see if it comes back where it was supposed to. The way this turret feels, I think there is some grease in there that I need to spread. Like I said, I just pulled the scope out of the box. I've done absolutely nothing with it. Where is it? That's my 0. Let's refocus. And we are dead on. That's pretty good. Click feel is decent. Can't quite complain. Vertical elevation is pretty good. Again, it's a relatively slim turret, and it's 5 milliradian per turn, which is not ideal. But now there is a 0 stop, and the tracking looks to be spot on. I would imagine the windage is going to do pretty much the same thing, but we will take a quick look anyway, and then we'll move on to our usual business. Okay, so to do windage tracking, I'm going to align it a little bit differently. So I'm going to misalign it vertically and try to align it as perfectly as I can horizontally. There we go. If you look at the reticle dimensions, we're very, very close to spot on. Check focus. There we go. Okay, so I am going to 5 milliradian one direction and 5 the other, because frankly I don't give a rat's ass about dialing huge amount of windage. Where is it? There we go. If it's 5 spot on, go back to 0. I think this is Where's 0? That's 0. Perfect. Let's go 5 the other direction. And that's 5 the other direction, and we are again spot on. All right, as far as tracking goes, at least so far on a collimator, not in the real life, I'll call this about as good as I've seen. And to be fair, what SWFA did with this scope, they didn't try to reinvent the wheel. They didn't try to make it a complete ground-up design. They took the design that they've had for a few years that worked well and they knew was robust, and I tried to update it with some modern features, a tree reticle, zero stop, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to rotate my camera back and make sure it's pointing in the right direction. And as far as tracking goes, we will call this good. Does that all make sense, gentlemen? Great. Now I've tilted the camera, and that's going to trigger my OCD. I'm going to adjust it again. Questions, concerns, Christmas wishes, anything about SWFA's new 3 to 15 by 42 rifle scope? When SWFA decided that they are still tilted. When SWFA decided that they're going to update their rifle scopes, there was, as always, on the hide and other places, vociferous discussion about how they're horrible old designs and Arkin is better and all that sort of stuff. I don't think Arkin is better. These designs are not the most modern, but they work. Okay, that's once the shaking stops, that's looks a lot more level to me. Mr. Kleinbottle. Yes, no questions. Okay, got it. Yeah, I don't think there are any questions there. The freaking thing tracked 20 mil vertically, plus minus 5 horizontally. I'm going to obviously check tracking again on the firearm with recoil, and as I test the scope, it will come back to the collimator multiple times to get its tracking retested. Okay, where was I? Yeah, SWFA. Image quality is pretty decent. Mechanical quality traditional with them has been very, very good. Scope is, I think, around $750 or something like that. Let me pull up. I think it used to be $700 before the redesign, and I think they bumped it up to $750, but I'm gonna tell you right now. I know it's here somewhere. Yeah, it looks to be $750 if I'm looking at the, or no, $800 I think for the theoretical and $750 for the regular for the original mil quad. Okay, that was a little bit confusing. Let me see. I'm trying to see if the one I'm looking at has a reticle picture somewhere in there. There we go. There it is. Okay, I'm gonna put it up on the screen. So it is $800. It is a Japanese 3 to 15 by 42. So if you want a Japanese-made scope, this is probably the least expensive option you're going to get. And it's kind of nice to have the multi-decade track record that WFA scopes have. Does that mean it's the scope to get for everyone? No, it is that for some people and not ideal for others. My only real complaint is that I wish they had an illuminated dot in the center or something like that, but the way the reticle is sized, it actually looks pretty good, even without illumination. So that's the reticle we just saw. And the way they ship the scope, so they give you 2 sets of turrets. Basically, you can either cover them or uncover them, and there is a zero stop. Okay. Otherwise, if you know what the SWFA scopes historically looked like, nothing here will be especially surprising. The markings got a little bit bolder a little bit brighter, but the core optomechanical quality has remained reasonably the same. Mr. Jeff just sent me an email for the Fastfire. Let me see. All right. Mr. Brandon is going for XTR PS. Jeff. Okay. Jeff's email, the ID comes back as Booty Monster. Okay. Which reminds me, what happened to Sir Cunt Bucket, who is a fixture on all my live streams? Because I don't know what is a more entertaining screen name, Cunt Bucket or Booty Monster. Both have a certain ring to it. Okay. Okay, Chris, I'm sure you've mentioned it before, but I've run into vertical, mechanical. My Mark IV tracks vertically well, but the reticle is off by a degree or so. Do you mean the cant, how the reticle is rotated with respect to the body? Is that what you mean? Jeff, the cookie monster likes cookies. Guess what I like? Well, Jeff, I hope you never go to prison. That having been said, so Chris, do you mean the difference between the tracking versus reticle cant? Is that what you mean? If that is the case, so one of the things that the column measure testing does, it immediately shows you if there is a cant or not. Because what would have happened if there was a cant, the reticle in the collimator and reticle in the scope, as I was dialing, so with that, I accept the fact that mechanical vertical matters more to me since I dial. Yes, can't. There you go. So you are correct. Can't happens a fair bit. And with this test that I do with the collimator, what would happen if the reticle was canted in any sort of a significant manner with respect to the mechanical adjustment axis, you would have seen the collimator reticle and the rifle scope reticle start separating from each other as I dial further and further away from center. In this case, we didn't really see any of it, but I will obviously be looking out for it. So for most manufacturers, most OEMs, if you don't press them, they will basically tell you that anything less than 2% cant is acceptable. Most of the companies I know who use OEMs, some just take anything. Quite a few, like Element or SWFA and others, they actually hold the OEM to a tighter standard. A reticle cant, meaning rotation, that is less than a degree or so becomes extremely difficult for us to see. That's roughly where we don't see it very much. And if you do a little bit of arithmetic, unless you are really shooting ELR or somewhere very, very far away, that level of cant that's less than a degree usually does not hugely matter. This 1.5 degree, also interestingly, when we hold something level, we can see if we're accidentally canting the rifle or the scope with roughly the same granularity, about a degree and a half. That's sort of how we are wired. But in case of this particular WFA scopes, again, this very, very quick first look, I'm not seeing any visible cant, but I always check for it. Okay. Since I talked a little bit about the reticle, we've got about 15 minutes before I do the draw. We've got 44 entries, actually pretty good, 44 altogether between XTR PS and Fastfire 4. That's pretty decent odds. So to remind you guys the way I do the draw, I'm going to a website called random.org. And I'm going to ask it to generate a random number for me between 1 and 44. And I'm just going to see in the order in which it was received, which email it is. If let's say we're drawing the XTR PS certificate, remember, so it's a 2000 off certificate. To get an XTR PS will still cost you $639, but that's less than you will find anywhere else. So yeah, I'm gonna count off which email it is. If for that number, if it's XTR PS, you want the drawing. If not, we generate another random number and so on. And I'm gonna start with that in about 15 minutes. Okay. Jeff B, 1961. Ha ha ha. Okay. By that, I assume you have not been to prison and plan to stay away. Wise choice. Okay, where was I? Reticles. So I've been spending a lot of time with medium power variable scopes lately. In one, I've been spending a ton of time with. Recently was the Leopold Mark IV HD 2.5 to 10 by 42, and I generally like that scope. It is an SPR-ish design. Honestly, I think it is one of the better hunting scopes that Leopold makes right now. It's lightweight, good configuration, locking turret. It seems to track well and all that. The one I have is equipped with the illuminated TMR reticle, and it is quite thick. The nice thing is that even on 2.5 power, you can see this reticle surprisingly well. Let me see if I can. I don't remember if I have a picture. I took a bunch of pictures, but they're still in the camera, so they may or may not be visible. I may not be able to access them. The camera is in another house, but I think I have a reticle to show you. That is, we all know what TMR looks like. It was sort of Leopold's take on something like the that's usually how it works. For the love of God. I know I've taken pictures of that reticle, just can't find it. If not, I'm going to do a separate video on it anyway, so it's not that big a deal, but still moderately annoying. So the way this illuminated TMR is sized, it limits the reasonable range of applications for the scope. 2.5 to 10, while we're all used to very high power scopes, etc. But with a 10 power scope, you can reach pretty far out. The TMR reticle on 10 power gets bold enough where I can engage a man-sized target fairly far away, but if I'm shooting plates and I need to see my impact and all that, those things are pretty thick. The center aiming dot is not too bad, but the bars immediately outside the aiming zone kind of bold. I generally like reticles that are, a little bit bolder than what seems to be the norm these days, and that is a little bit too bold even for me. The flip side of the coin is that on low power, it works. It is surprisingly nicely visible. But since that reticle is illuminated, I think they could have gone a little bit thinner and be pretty good. Now, on the other hand, if the primary purpose of the scope is something like hunting, where inside of, let's say, 500 yards, then that's a very, very nice reticle option. But the more I look at it, the more I spend time with different MPVO-ish reticles, the more I think that the right way to approach these designs is to introduce some sort of a high visibility feature. When I say these designs, I talk about scopes that are 2 to 10, 2.5 to 10, 2 to 12, that kind of stuff. Rifle scopes that go down to about 2 to 2.5 power. If you want good usability on low magnification, high magnification, it sure seems like introducing something like a horseshoe, a segmented horseshoe circle, something that on low power will bracket the primary aiming point for you, it sure looks like that is a better way to go. And as I kind of evaluate how all these things look at different magnifications, what I end up going to is the reticle I designed for element 5 to 30 prismatics. The milliradian reticle for that. Let me see if I can find that one. If you've been here for a while, you'll know what it looks like. I've talked about that reticle incessantly. But the more time I spend with these moderate power rifle scopes, the more I sort of converge that something broadly similar to this, maybe not identical, but broadly similar to this, is probably what I would want in a medium power variable scope reticle. So what I did here, it's a small milliradian tree. You can probably do a bigger tree here and there. But the horseshoe, what is it? It's it's about plus minus about a 10 milliradian horseshoe for a high power scope. I can make it a little smaller, maybe 5 or 6 milliradian. It's not super bold, but in high magnification, it's sufficiently far away from center. And when you're on low power, it does define an aiming point for you. You don't have to look for a fairly small dot across here, right there in the center. As we go to the mid-power crossover designs, I think something like a horseshoe or other high visibility features becomes unnecessary and superfluous. But in rifle scopes that go down to about 2 power, it looks like it's a pretty good idea. Okay, let's see. Mr. Jeff. Right, I'm gonna put the chat on the screen so you guys can see what I see. Okay, couple of questions. Is there any scope company other than Vortex that will replace their scope even if damaged by the owner and not the failure of the scope's component or assembly? So quite a few of them have what they call a no-fault warranty. If you read the fine print, they all have caveats for that to some degree. But to be honest with you, in the modern market, most of them will repair things for you. It just depends on how much of a dick you're being, to be blunt. Right? If you call them up and you behave like everybody owes you, they might stick it to it because you're still, whatever the policy is, you're talking to humans on the other line. Most better scope companies will repair stuff for you, even if it's not a manufacturing defect. They might not if you burn it to the ground or whatever else, but for a lot of the different user-induced damage, like dropping things, etc., most of them will take care of it. Primary Arms will, Burris Steiner will, so will Leupold, etc. Again, you might, if you behave like a dick and you call up and end up talking to a guy who, just had his left testicle pinched by a door frame, it might not work out so well. Most of the time, you'll be fine. In terms of the ease of using the warranty, I think Vortex has kind of redefined the field, and pretty much everyone else has had to do something broadly similar. From the smaller players like SWFA and Tract to the larger ones like Leupold, Burris, and honestly, Primary Arms is becoming a pretty good size player. Yeah. You mentioned Burris, Leupold, and Night Force. I've had very good customer service experience with Burris and Leupold. I've even used their customer service using somebody else's name just to see, because a lot of them can recognize my name. It's unusual enough where they know who I am. I've even used their customer service under somebody else's name. It generally worked pretty nicely. Except for Night Force, I don't have any personal experience with Night Force customer service. I've heard some relatively unpleasant stories, but no personal experience. Mr. Pete Grant, I love the radical my immersive 5 to 30. Thank you for the very good recommendation. You're very welcome. I'm glad you like my radical. I put quite a lot of time and effort into it. Oh, there we go. So we have and also from Pete Grant, Athlon replaced 2 scopes for me due to a faulty torque range. Well, there you go. Add Athlon to the list as well. Again, since Vortex has kind of reset the field, most reputable manufacturers pretty much had to catch up. Jeff, I'm thinking if I slip, fall, and bust a scope on a rock or a tree, most of them will take care of you, right? What they really don't want to see, they don't want you to take a hammer to it. Like if they think you did intentional damage, you're on your own. If it is an accident, most reputable companies will take care of you. Or what they do when they write all those caveats and all that sort of stuff is that if they suspect foul play, they want to have something to fall back upon. If they do not suspect foul play, in my experience, again, I can't speak for the companies, obviously, but in my experience, if there is no foul play, most of them will take care of you. They'd rather be nice to you and generate some goodwill than deal with all the complaining and bad publicity and all that. Especially since everybody who's ever been treated badly by any company's customer service immediately hits the forums and goes, "Oh, I wish I bought a Vortex," right? So Vortex guys like it, but everybody else is kind of assuming that they'll have to invest a little bit into generating good word of mouth. All right. Let's see, where are we with emails? Still 44. Okay. And we're at 7:40, so 5 more minutes. All right. Any other questions I can take before we do the raffle? Let me see if there's anything that I missed. That's actually very interesting. So I talked about it a little bit, but I didn't address this specific thing from Chris Moore. I'm sure you've mentioned it before, but around theoretical vertical versus mechanical vertical. So we're still talking about cant. But what he says here, my Mark IV tracks vertically well, but theoretical is off by a degree or so. Have you talked to the Loophole guys? So generally speaking, if theoretical cant is significant enough where you can see it with the naked eye, should probably have them exchange the scope, right? So did you talk to the guys at Loophole? Did they run into any issues? Loophole is, with some of the older designs, was sort of famous for having canted reticles. But on the Mark IVs and Mark Vs, I really haven't seen it very much. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It happens with everybody. But haven't seen it a ton. So I'm kind of curious. Let me know if you've talked to them or not. And if you have, whether they gave you the runaround. Okay. Mr. Rick Hemme, none here. Okay, so let's do the drawing then. So I am on random.org. I'm gonna share the tab. And let's see, you should be able to see it. There we go. Look, I'm not gonna show you my email because it has full names and addresses of email addresses of people. I don't want that on the screen. I will refresh it to make sure we're all up to speed. There is a total of 44 emails. We will generate a random number between 1 and 44, which happened to be 32. And let's see who that is. All right, it is somebody named Ross Corona, who is number 32. Ross, did you happen? Ross Corona, are you online by chance? Ross Corona? No? Yes? Okay. Oh, yeah. Chris, I spoke with the main rep at the match and said they had an issue with the Mark IV line. They're going to replace it. Main rep, was it John by chance? He's kind of a surly guy who only smiles when he's outdoors at matches. A nice guy like John. Yeah, they'll take care of you. I mean, they know the reticles are not supposed to be canted. All right, I assume that Ross Corona is not watching this live. Let me fire off an email to Mr. Ross Corona, and I'm going to do this. So, I'm going to be back in town on Tuesday. If I don't hear back from you by Tuesday, we're going to re-raffle this. Let me shoot him an email. Okay. Let's see if this guy also ghosts me or if he's going to reply. Okay. Snodgrass, yeah. Yeah, John is in charge of the product development. And he's a shooter. He'll understand. Alrighty. So, we'll assume that the XTR PS certificate for now is gone. Now we're going to draw for the Fastfire 4. I'm going to repeat the same exercise, generate a random number, count off the emails, and let's see who gets that one. 44. All right. Let's see who was 44. 44. All right. Mr. Booty Monster, you got a Fastfire 4. Okay, you are still online, right? Okay, Jeff, you got a Fastfire 4. Send me your shipping address, and I'll get it out to you when I come back from LA. My best friend is turning 50, so I'm going to head over to LA and see some friends and also join the celebration. Okay, let me send Jeff an email. So, Mr. Lee Tintle, you missed out again. Okay. So now the raffle is done. Hey, it's all in the open. You are seeing the random number generator just same as I am. Okay, so future raffles. I have a bunch of different review items here. Some of them I divest and others I'm going to raffle off. There'll be a couple of prismatics, some other stuff here and there. This is Mr. Stand Targets Robert in. Why don't you? So here's an honest question for you. If you were in my spot, would you do the same thing? Point it out. I bet you would. So, but okay, where was I? Yeah. So for future raffles, I'm going to require that if you want to win the raffle, you have to be here. That simplifies my life considerably. Okay. So technically that concludes what I wanted to discuss. I can stick around for a few more minutes, take a few questions, and if not, I'm going to wrap up and go pack. My flight leaves at 6:30 tomorrow morning. The interesting part is that my wife is coming back earlier than my son and I. It's the three of us going. So we were in different reservations. So my son and I got upgraded to first class, and my wife is somewhere in a less row. It's going to be entertaining for the duration of the flight, and then I'm going to pay for it. Still worth it. Let's see. Okay. While I wait to see if there are any further questions. So future plans. I looked a little bit at my schedule. I think I'm going to make it out to the TRT Sniper Challenge in Montana, which is August 1st through 3rd. If any of you are going, I'm going to see you there. If any of you don't know what that is, I strongly recommend. Okay, Chris is logging off. Thank you for joining us, Chris. So for those of you who don't know, the first match that I shot in Arizona earlier this year, it was this Pro-Am match. So I went in as an amateur, and Chris was the professional who got paired with me. So he had the unenviable task of listening to my commentary. I think he learned a few new Russian words, and I learned quite a lot from him. So I really appreciate it, Chris, and good to see you here. Excellent. Jeff is on top of it. Wonderful. It's going to be interesting to see if I have to raffle off that freaking XTR PS certificate one more time, but we shall see. But anyhow, so I'm going to shoot one more precision match this year in the very beginning of August in Montana. It's called the TRT Sniper Challenge. I am going to put it up on the screen for those of you who like doing these kind of things. It is a nice match. All the proceeds go to charity. It is allegedly in a very, very beautiful place. And I kind of recommend it. It's a two-man team, so I'm talking to a friend of mine to see if he wants to pair up with me. If not, I may do an open casting call to see who wants to join me for that match. I've never been to Montana, so I'm kind of looking forward to it, and it is for a very good cause. So we'll see. Okay, Steven Newman, have you ever done a Hyper 7 full review and I missed it or not yet? I have not done a full review. I keep on talking about it, getting ready, and then I get distracted. Hyper 7 is such an interesting optic, but it's so difficult to figure out what the right place for it is. Like it's from a technology standpoint, it's an absolute powerhouse in many ways. But it's really hard to truly figure out where it fits. I think I found the right spot for it on a 300 blackout, where you have vastly different point of aim and trajectory with different ammo. And the fully electronic reticle of the Hyper 7 is a good match there. But I gotta tell you, every time I sit and think and try to figure out how I really want to phrase it, it takes me a little time and then I get distracted. So it's coming. This year, a lot of what I was doing really got taken over by the fact that I started shooting matches, and the learning curve is pretty steep, and I really enjoy it. So some of the things I wanted to do ended up not being done between the matches and how busy my day job has been. So we'll see. It's coming. Mr. Stern targets, I will be very happy if you have to again. So you just want another shot at the XTR PS. I know you. Okay, if this second guy who won the certificate also disappears, I'm gonna stop saying their names out loud when you're listening, because there's maybe something fishy there. Oh Lord. All right, guys. What else you got before I wrap up? Oh man, Lee, you're cracking me up. But so anyhow, I'm gonna shoot one more precision match this year. I may do one or two locally, but the way they're scheduled is kind of gets tricky for me. But I'm gonna do that 2-3 day match in the beginning of August, and after that I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to be doing a lot more stuff with AR-15s, and I'm going to and I'm going to do more with hunting rifles. So I have a mule deer and cow elk hunt in the end of October. It's going to take a little bit of preparation, so we'll see. Mr. Steve Newman, if it goes much longer, that coupon will expire. No, I'll make one more. If the gentleman who won it today does not resurface, I'm going to make one more attempt to raffle it off. And I'm just going to go screw it, use it, and then sell it for the money that I paid for it, and that's it. I'm not going to let the certificate expire. Mr. Pete Grant, have you seen or used the Element RF module? So I have the Element RF module, and I have it connected to the Hyper 7. They work together exceedingly well, and it ends up being a surprisingly capable combination. With the automated ballistics, with multiple profiles, with the laser aiming point, lined up to the scope. I mean, it works really well in many ways. It has a couple of significant shortcomings, primarily reticle visibility in very bright light. You kind of have to put sunshade on, like sunglasses, which is a downside of a purely digital reticle. But in terms of getting your ballistic solution in front of you without having to turn anything, it is pretty cool. They have this adjustable. They have one of these profiles where you range with the scope. It shows you what it ranged in the scope and adjusts the reticle aiming point to the ballistic solution that's been pre-programmed based on the distance. It is a pretty cool way of shooting. And again, I published my review for the Burris XTR PS earlier today. It is for supporters only for now on my website and for the channel members on YouTube. But in a few days, I'm going to open it up to a general audience. And the XTR PS is interesting in that it is a very clever way and a relatively unobtrusive way to integrate electro-optical stuff into a conventional rifle scope. The Hyper 7 from Element is another way of looking at it. It's a bigger step, which introduces a bigger change in how we shoot with a fully digital reticle and a bigger dependence on battery and all that. But you can do more with it. And the battery life is, it's not hours, it's days, if you never turn it off, right? So it's interesting. Mr. Pete Grant, will it work with a regular scope? No. So yes, there's a little display in the back. You can mount it on a regular scope, and it'll work just fine. You just have to read off the display on the back of it, which is a fairly small screen. With the Hyper 7, it talks to it wirelessly and displays it inside the Hyper 7, so you don't have to look at the laser rangefinder. But it will work. I mean, it's just a compact laser rangefinder. Brandon Loop, if he doesn't claim the XTR, I'll vote you raffle it only to someone on the stream. Yeah, that's a good idea. I didn't want to do it this time because that's not how I originally defined the rules. But I think you're right. If again nobody claims it, I will raffle it off to only whoever is on the stream. So we'll see. We shall see. Yeah, see, Mr. Booty Monster, Jeff B, was on the stream. I already got the address and everything, right? So I think that's motivational to be doing this in real time. Okay. Mr. Jeff goes, I'll third it. All right. We almost have a minyan. It's a Jewish term. Minyan is for many different religious events. You need 10 Jewish men. That's a minyan. Okay. All right. With that being behind us, I am going to wrap this up and go pack and try to go to sleep early because I need to be out of my house no later than 5, I think. I'll double check. So this is going to be a relatively short live stream by my standards. I am going to try to do the next one a week from today. And if the guy doesn't claim the XTR PS certificate, we'll just raffle it off to only the people on the stream. I like that idea. And after that, I have some travel coming up. A few other things we'll see. We'll see what I can do. But happy 4th of July. I'm going to. I've been kind of ruminating this in my head. I feel like I need to write something nice and profound for the 4th of July. But I don't do nice and profound very well. I do dark and cynical really well. And 4th of July is sort of important. I don't want to get dark and cynical on that one. Maybe I'll come up with something and write it on the plane. Thank you guys for sticking with me. Thank you for having a sense of humor. Thank you for tolerating Mr. Stay on Targets. You know, he's difficult, but you know, it's our cross to bear. We have to suffer a little bit. And thank you for the good wishes. Enjoy the long weekend. Enjoy 4th of July, and always keep in mind something I keep on telling Americans, and too many don't understand this. Most other countries in the world develop their national identity because of particular boundaries, particular peoples, particular language, particular color, particular culture. America didn't start in that way. Sometimes it takes an immigrant to figure that out. America is an idea. America is a creed. And America stays America for as long as we carry that idea forward. And when we don't, that's when this whole thing is going to stop, and the greatest nation the world has ever seen will cease to exist. We are a nation of ideas, and it's worthwhile to never forget that. Thank you all, and have a good weekend and a good night.